conversations to help you achieve your potential. My name is Stephen Bouchon, and my role in this is to create some content, bits of information, sharing about things that I've done in my career that have helped me grow, progress, or think about what those next steps might be and how to plan to get there. There'll also be conversations with other people, associates, colleagues, people who I think have interesting things to share with an audience to help other people grow and develop and achieve all that they can be. What I wanted to talk about today was something that a lot of my mentees, some of my coaches, or students, people I've talked to, they've asked me about. So how did I think about career? How did I plan, my career and my growth and the roadmap or the path that I followed? And it's interesting because what I did is it was back in my 30s. I was working for the Walt Disney Company in Paris, and I love the company, but the job I was in at the time, I wasn't growing anymore. I wanted to do more, and I started thinking about, so what's the next step for me? How do I take that next step? What's the next job? And I applied for different jobs, and they didn't necessarily turn out, and I wasn't really sure that they were actually taking me where I wanted to go. And I think that was one of the first things that I had to decide upon is, where did I want to go? Because if you don't know where you want to go, then you can do anything and it'll take you there. So what I began thinking about is, for me, what did I want the end of my career to look like? So I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about, okay, well, I believed, I'm an engineer, I have an MBA, I have a business background. I wanted to run a company or a large department of a major company. And so I started thinking about, okay, so I wrote that down, said, I want to run a company. And then I said, well, what else do I want to do? Well, I want to travel. I want to sort of experience life. I want to go on adventures. I want to do some other things. So I had this work piece kind of figured out. I kind of knew what that looked like. Then I started thinking, okay, I need to think about this across different dimensions. And that's when I started thinking about these three dimensions: life, and life as sort of, for me it was travel, it was different experiences, it was things like that. Learning, I believe that I'm a lifelong learner. I believe in gaining knowledge through experience, through study, through things like that. And I believe that this is one of the things that's required to help me grow in work and sort of describe the work. So I started thinking about, what do I want my, that end period to look like? And it came up with something like this. We start in life. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have a second family property. I wanted, kids, grandkids. I wanted to be a grandparent, things like that. For learning, I wanted to have more professional certification. I wanted to have training. I wanted to be respected as an expert in certain things, or somebody who could help share knowledge with other people. And for my role, I knew that I wanted to lead a company. I wanted to have P&L responsibility. I wanted to work in the area of developing strategies and then working with teams of people to execute against those strategies. Really vast, really, really large, but at least it gave me an idea as to what I wanted to get to. And then I stepped back and said, okay, what do I need to do before that? If that's what I'm going to be doing in my 60s, what do I have to be doing before that? I guess in my 50s. And then it struck me, I said, okay, let's think about that. But then I can then also think about, then what am I going to be doing in my 40s? And then what do I have to be doing for the rest of my 30s? So I set decades as sort of the milestones for myself. And I started stepping back. And I knew that, for example, if I was going to be running a company in my 60s, I needed to have large-scale operating experience in my 50s. I needed to have international P&L responsibility in my 50s. So I needed to do things like this. So I stepped back across these three dimensions, life, learning, and work, and started filling this chart in backwards. And I said, okay, I'm just going to complete it. I'm in my 30s now. Let's look back at what I did. What did I do between, when I was born and when I graduated from college? And then what did I do in my 20s? And what did I do in the first half of my 30s? And that gave me a roadmap. It showed me where I'd come from and where I wanted to go to get to this end vision. So when I talk with people, when I talk with my clients, or when I talk with my mentees, or people who want to have a conversation about career path and what their next role might be, I have them always think about what's their vision. What is it that they want to accomplish? Where do they want to end up? And I always push them to think big, to be really bold, to not say, oh, here's where I am, I think I want to be, the next level up. Well, is that really fulfilling? Is that what you really want to do? If you had no constraints, no barriers, what would it look like? Okay, so that's what your vision should be, something that's really, really aspirational. You should talk about the values in the vision. What are those things that when you're honoring them, you feel whole, you feel good, you feel, as though you're a whole person, you're unique, you're being true to yourself. And when you're violating them, you know that something's off. Okay, what's your purpose? There's a lot of conversation we're going to have around what your life purpose is, but it's one of the things that it helps to be a guide for them in terms of the roles that they're going to take. Is this role going to help keep them on purpose, or is it going to sort of violate some of their values and take them off purpose? What's fulfilling for people? What is it that brings joy and happiness and resonance in life, in learning, and in work? Because we spend a lot of time at work. I'm not saying that it should be fun, but it should bring us fulfillment. We should be fulfilled, maybe not every day, but we should be fulfilled with what we're doing. If it is that, I'm a carpenter and I get fulfillment from the construction and the finishing of construction of a building or of a something. So we need to capture that, and we need to think about that. If I am a financial analyst and I get really fulfilled when I've done some long-range forecasting and I've created models that make it easy for people to understand the numbers, we should capture that. We should think about how do we integrate that element into our work or into our life. And the vision is always future-focused. It should be about what you want to achieve aspirationally. Where do you want to get to, in a period of time? And then once you think about the vision of where you want to get to, then you can break down and say, okay, so what are the milestones that are going to be required to get there? And I always think it's interesting and easier to say, okay, project to the future and then step back. If this is what I'm going to be doing then, what do I need to be doing just before that? And then if that's what I'm going to be doing there, what do I need to be doing just before that? I often think about, what are the periods? I used a decade, maybe 5 years, maybe it's annually for other people. The timing, how far out are we going? And then what is the cadence to get there? And I like, rather than being very specific, I like to talk about the descriptors of what those different steps look like. For example, rather than say, I'm going to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and I think that's wrong, but for me, it was more about, I knew that I wanted to lead large groups of people. I knew that I wanted to have P&L responsibility. I knew that I wanted to train people to take over from me when I was going to move on to something else. So succession planning, legacy, things of that nature. Because that allowed me to think of different alternative paths to get there while still staying on purpose, true to my values, in a fulfilling way. So that's what I did. And again, what those milestones look like for me. For example, in my 60s, I talked about what I wanted to get to. And I laid out this map. And it's changed. When I hit 40s, I looked at it again. I said, hey, you know what? has this changed? I reevaluated. Do I still want to do this when in my 60s? Are these steps to get there, the milestones, the same? So it's a document to think about, but it's a roadmap that can change. I like to think of career planning a bit like vacation planning, because career or life planning, it should be fun. Life, work, all should be fun, like a vacation. Now, I like to think about a vacation. I may want to get to a certain experience at the end of it, and there may be things to do along the way. But I want to be open to either, let's say I'm going to be driving across the country, but a road gets closed. What are some of the alternative paths I can take? Or I get to a destination and I had planned to be there for a day, but you know what? There's a lot more to do. I'm going to stay here for 2 days or 3 days, and it's not going to throw off the whole vacation. Planning your life, planning your career should be similar. Plan the milestones, but be open and ready to change. Be flexible to take an alternative path, to consider a new opportunity if it's going to bring you the learnings that you need, some of the work that you want to accomplish, the experiences you want to have, so that you can achieve at the end the vision that you're after. I'll be happy to share with you my roadmap in its current state. I call it my non-traditional bio of a reinventalist, because I believe we need to reinvent ourselves more and more frequently today than we had to in the past. I'm happy to share it. Just reach out to me and let me know. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, again, reach out. I will try to answer as many as I can. And stay tuned for the next step conversation. Thank you.